Hi there, folks. Welcome back to Funny Papers. This is your old buddy Dustin, back for another reading of the comic strips. Glad you guys came by. Yeah, just another week. Another fun one. I don't know where, you guys come from all over the place, and I'm coming to you from Colorado. And I don't know if it's in the news where you're at. I mean, if you're listening in Colorado, then you know more than most. There's been some pretty nasty wildfires this summer, and recently, and they're burning pretty out of control right now, up in the mountains of Colorado. And I'm down in Denver, and the effects of the smoke and everything coming off the mountains as a result of those fires is pretty apparent down here. And it's really, you can't even see the mountains right now. It's so hazy as a result of this smoke. And if you're living in California, that reality is not new to you. It happens all the time, and the wildfires, as sad as it is for people with property damage and stuff like that, there are some underlying benefits behind wildfires. As strange and as hard as it is to kind of come about with those, on the lighter side of that, the effects of a wildfire actually is beneficial to the ecosystem up there in the long term. Prescribed burns have been and are still used to this day, and it helps restore the ecosystem and just the balance of a forest naturally. It's unfortunate that this happens, but it's kind of a natural thing. The underlying unfortunate thing about it is when these fires are started unintentionally by people just carelessly burning, and if it affects property and then that's when it really kind of strikes a chord. And that's what's happening right now. Not to dwell on that doom and gloom, but hey, that is what it is. And it happens every year. There's really no avoiding it. Well, you didn't come here to listen to me talk about wildfires and stuff like that. You came here to listen to me talk about funny papers. At least I hope you did. So yeah, let's get into the funny papers. Yeah, this is actually a good week. It's funny. I get the newspaper every Sunday, and that's where I pull my content from, along with a few other sources, but it's primarily out of the Denver Post that I get delivered on a weekly basis. And this week's funny. It's almost like I don't know if it's true, but it's almost like they refilled the ink on the printing press, whatever it is. Is it a printing press? It's got to be. But anyway, the Sunday funnies this week are like exceptionally vibrant in their colors. Last week it seemed like maybe they were running low. Yeah, maybe that's a silly thing to point out, but this week is exceptionally brilliant. My first observation has nothing to do with the content. It's just it looks pretty. It looks pretty to me. But we'll start at the top of the page this week, actually, because I think this one's funny and fitting, fitting for me, because I can relate. And that's for the zits. I haven't done the zits in a little while. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I did that last week, but no matter. The zits is by Jerry Scott and Jim Borgman. And we start with Jeremy and his father. They're sitting in the car. Jeremy's father, Walt, is driving. Jeremy's sitting in the passenger seat, and he's he's on his phone right now, and Jeremy's wearing his regular, what would that be? A plaid shirt. Maybe it's it's definitely plaid. It's kind of a maroon color. His dad's wearing kind of regular white shirt with a black vest. And they're driving along, and as Jeremy's kind of uninterested looking down onto his phone, Walt's looking out the side of the window in the car as they're driving, and he says, nails are us. He's reading a sign, I guess. Jeremy's kind of, he's split his attention. He's put his phone down. He's looking over at his father, Walt, and Walt's looking off in another direction, and he says out, Carpet Emporium. Now Jeremy's looking straight out the front of the windshield. He's not engaged in his phone anymore. Walt's craned his head over, and he's looking off the other side now, and he says, One-way street. And now, Jeremy's expression hasn't changed much. He's just kind of sitting there uninterested. He's just used to his father's antics, I guess. And Walt's now pointing with his thumb. He's pointing, out the window, and he says, Grandpa's cheese barn? Walt's got a smile on his face. He's enjoying the little trip as he's reading off the signs and whatever they pass. And Jeremy's looking over at his father now as he's looking off, and he's still going off. He says, Truck stop. Baptist Church. He's just reading off everything he sees. And Jeremy's sitting there now. He's just kind of a befuddled look on his face. His face is kind of sank, and I don't know. He just looks a little just kind of irritated or embarrassed by his father. And a thought bubble's coming out, and he's not saying this out loud, but he's thinking it, and he says, Dads, the closed captions of road trips. And his father is now looking out the window again, and he's got his lips puckered out, and he's going, moo. They must have passed like a herd of cows or something. And that's it. So Father Walt was reading off and naming everything that they passed on the road. And Jeremy calls him the closed captions of road trips. And the reason I find this funny is because my grandfather on my mom's side, my mom's dad, who I haven't talked about before on this show, unfortunately, he passed quite a long time ago. I mean, I think 14 or 15 years old, so it's been a while. But I remember when we'd drive around with him, that's exactly what he would do. He'd read off every sign we passed, and it didn't matter what it was. It was just, for him, I guess it was just something he just enjoyed reading it off. I don't know what the motivation was there, but so now when I'm in the car with my mom, we'll do that and just kind of reflect on that, the antics that he gave us back then, which, you'd be driving down the road and he would read off of a McDonald's sign, 1.2 million customers served. Or we'd pass by a dentist, bright smiles here, and he would read all that. Yeah. That's why I brought that one up. It just relates to me, and I'm sure you've been in that place before, where it's just there's no rhyme or reason to reading off the signs as you pass them. It's just something to do as you're driving. Yeah, that was it. A good one in my opinion. Let's move on. I skipped this one last week. The subject matter last week just wasn't very. I just didn't find it appropriate. It was kind of. It was a little bit morbid. And And that's why I skipped. I usually don't. I usually do it every week. I'm sure you can guess what that one is. It's The Pickles. It's The Pickles by Brian Crane. And this week's quite a bit more lighthearted and kind of funny and relatable too. So here's The Pickles. And we start with Opal and Earl in there in the bedroom. And Opal's already in bed, tucked in. She's wearing like a kind of looks like a pink polka dotted nightgown. She's in bed. She's already kind of got her eyes closed. Looks like she's close to kind of dozing off. And Earl's standing next to the bed, and he's wearing these kind of these purple striped pajamas. No nightcap, There's no Scrooge nightcap, unfortunately. That'd be kind of funny if he did, but no, he doesn't. He's standing there in his striped pajamas, and he's got his hands on his hips, kind of looking down at Opal as she's trying to fall asleep, it looks like. And Earl goes, "Every night before I go to bed, I put my wristwatch in this nightstand." And the nightstand next to him's got the drawer open. And he's just kind of looking down now. He says, "But this morning, it's not there." Okay, so I guess it's the morning. So maybe Opal's still kind of asleep. I guess it's morning time. But he says he usually puts his wristwatch in the nightstand. And he's looking down at it now, and he says, "But this morning, it's not there." And he's kind of crouched over the open drawer of the nightstand, looking into it, and he says, "I looked in both drawers and under the bed." He's kind of stood back up and thinking to himself. He's scratching his head. Scratch, 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 scratch. "I don't know where it went. It just disappeared." And Opal's still laying in bed. Just kind of speaks out. Yeah, kind of in her half sleep, kind of tired way. She says, "Did you check your wrist?" Earl's standing there a little confused, and he looks down at his wrist, and there it is. There's his wristwatch right on his wrist. And looking down at his watch, he says, "Oh, well, never mind." And there's The Pickles. I'm sure you've been in that situation, or at least witnessed that kind of situation in somebody where it's like, where are my glasses? And, they could be like perched on top of your head. He had his wristwatch on the whole time. I'm pretty sure I've been in that situation before too. Not with my watch probably, but with something like my sunglasses or something. There's that moment where you're kind of frantic. Like, where the hell did I put my sunglasses or my glasses? And there they are, just kind of where you put them up on top of your head. That's a relatable one. A little dry, but whatever, Oh, The Pickles, It's funny that those two are, they're inseparable. I mean, they love each other, and they're always kind of jabbing at each other. Opal she didn't really have anything sarcastic to say. She just knew the situation. She just knew that Earl didn't check his wrist before he made this big fuss about not being able to find his watch. Well, okay. Let's move right along. What now? Well, I have two here. I had a either or, maybe this one, maybe this one. Let's do Pearls Before Swine. And this one's topical. It seems like Pearls Before Swine the last few weeks has been harping on the whole COVID-19 pandemic topic. It's not a bad thing, really. But this one's the same. It's they're addressing that, or Stefan Pastis is addressing that. So let's jump into it. It's Pearls Before Swine by our buddy Stefan Pastis. Now, we start with Pig and Rat, and they're kind of, looks like they're climbing up some sort of a hill or a mountain. Rat's leading the charge with Pig right behind him. And as they're walking up the hill, they approach a sign with an arrow pointing uphill, and the sign says, "Wise ass on the hill." Wise ass, okay. And they've kind of they've climbed up this hill, and they're towards the top, and Rat's looking up at this thing sitting on the top of the mountain. It kind of looks like a warthog, maybe, although it doesn't have like tusks. It's like a gray pig. I guess that's the wise ass. You know, you would think it would be like a donkey or something if you call it a wise ass on the hill, but it's got a snout like a pig. Kind of got that pig snout, but it's a wise looking pig sitting up there. Got glasses on and a white beard. He's sitting up there cross-legged. But as Rat approaches, he says, "Oh, great, wise ass on the hill." That's not how he'd say it. He says, "Oh, great, wise ass on the hill. How do we rid ourselves of the pandemic that plagues us?" And the wise ass, wise pig, wise guy on the hill, speaks up, and he says, "We must all read more. Not your Facebook news feed, but good books that inform and enlighten." It's some wise advice, I suppose, but wise guy goes on and he says, "And pay for local journalism, because if you don't, it'll go away." He still goes on. More to say. Wise ass has more to say. He says, "And strive to be informed, actually informed, instead of only seeking information that conforms to your worldview." Now, Rat's still standing there looking at the wise ass on the hill. Looking up at him, Rat says, and this will end COVID-19? Wise ass responds questionably, he's not sure. He says, "COVID-19? Question mark? He doesn't know, I guess. And wise ass says, "I thought we were talking about stupidity." Rat and Pig have left the hill, the mountain. They've hiked back down, and they're standing at the base of the hill, and they're looking at each other, reflecting, and Rat, speaking to Pig, says, "Apparently, there's more than one plague." It's Pearls Before Swine. So yeah, I think it's correct. There is more than one plague. I mean, the plague, I don't know. The situation we're in now with the virus is somewhat of a plague. It is a plague, I guess. But the plague of our humanity and the things that we're facing every day is certainly different. I mean, I think stupidity could be considered a plague. And there's no shortage of stupidity, in my opinion. I'm not going to point any fingers, but there's plenty of it out there. You don't have to look too far. You don't have to really dig deep to find that. And the difference in opinion is pretty wide. I mean, there's people that consider each other, someone else, stupid, but same goes. It goes both ways. I don't know if I'm articulating that very well. I try not to. I don't know. Offending people is kind of inevitable. But I'm trying not to do that. I'm a nice guy. If you knew me in person, you'd know that. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was local journalism and the way things are reported. And the message there is, gather your information in a better way. Don't just check your Facebook feed and gather your news that way. Compare your sources. I know it's hard to do. It's really not easy. It can take a lot of time, and a lot of us are busy. There's not a lot of time to cross-reference a bunch of different news sources, so that's a hard one. But don't get your news from Facebook, because that's really that's not the place to do it. Facebook should be a place where you socialize with friends. That's what was started as, It was a social networking thing. It wasn't about it wasn't a news source. It wasn't any of that. It was a way to connect with your friends and family. So use it for that. That's, if you could take anything away from this show today, maybe it's that. And also local news, pay attention to your local news. That's important. Well, okay, let's move on. That was that. Let's move to something very light, which I love. I love light content. Yeah, buddy. And who's well, he's not light. He's heavy. He's not a light. He's a heavy cat. And that heavy cat's Garfield. The heavy cat with a light message, but a fun one. So yeah, Garfield. Garfield is by Jim Davis. And we start out. We're looking from the outside in, from the outside of the house through the window, and Garfield and his little teddy bear, his buddy Teddy, are sitting in the window, and Garfield's looking out with his arm around Teddy, with a big smile on his face. And they're both just gazing out the window, just taking it in and enjoying it. And now we cut, and Garfield and Teddy are sitting on the floor playing a game of checkers. They've got the checkerboard out in front of them, and it's funny. Garfield's got a huge stack of red checker tokens next to him, and Teddy doesn't have anything in front of him. Looks like Garfield's beating Teddy pretty good on that checker game. But Garfield's got a smile on his face, and he's got his hand on his chin thinking. And they've moved on, and now Garfield's sitting next to Teddy, holding his phone out in front of him, posing for a little selfie. Garfield's got a big toothy grin on his face with Teddy right next to him, and Garfield's actually giving Teddy that classic bunny ears thing with his fingers, where you kind of put the peace sign or whatever, bunny ears, up behind the person you're taking a picture with, and the phone says click. He's just taking a selfie where he's giving Teddy some bunny ears. And now they've moved on, and they're sitting outside watching the sunset. We're looking at him from behind. Garfield's sitting there right next to Teddy. Garfield's leaning up against him, watching the sunset. A cute little moment there. And now we cut again to Garfield and Teddy are in the kitchen. Teddy's sitting on Garfield's head, and Garfield's got a big smile on his face because the refrigerator is wide open. And he's kind of checking over the stock of the fridge. He's looking for a snack, I guess. And now we cut again, and it's nighttime. Garfield's cozily wrapped up in his bed, and Teddy's laying on his stomach. And Garfield's got a big smile on his face. It's been a good day, I guess. But he's thinking to himself in a thought bubble above him. He's saying, any time is quality time with a teddy bear. There's Garfield. So Garfield just spent a really nice day with his buddy Teddy. Huh. What a good day, huh? It sounds nice. I mean, they didn't really accomplish much, but you don't really need to. Especially as a cat. Why not? Spend the day playing a game of checkers, watching the sunset, taking a selfie. That one's just cute. Sorry. That's just what it is. Oh, Garfield. I could do that one all day, you know? I could just keep reading Garfield. Just because it's such an old favorite of mine. Okay. I was torn between this. I was torn on this last one, but I think I'll do it. Just for the hell of it. And I can't remember the last time I did this one either. But it's relatable because I was participating in a similar activity this afternoon. But we're moving on to Blondie. And Blondie's by Dean Young and John Marshall. And Blondie, by the way, is one of the older comic strips that's been around. It's kind of stood the test of time. It's been around for a long time. We start off with not our title character, but our title character's husband, Dagwood. And Dagwood and the dog. And they're standing outside, and their neighbor walks up pushing a lawnmower up to him. And it's kind of that classic looking lawnmower, red deck, and, it wants a lawnmower. It's a gas-powered lawnmower. Not one of those old school real ones. Real lawnmowers, or would that be called a real lawnmower? Like R-E-A-L? Not an R. Oh no, it would be an R-E-E-L. Real lawnmower? Is that what it would be called? One of those old school ones that just as you push it, it just turns blades mechanically. But no, this is I'm probably painting a picture in your head that's not accurate, but no. The lawnmower that he's using is a gas-powered one. One you pour gas in and pull a string and it starts. But his neighbors walked up with that lawnmower, and Dagwood's looking down at it, and he says, well, it's about time you're returning my new mower. And his neighbor, by the way, is wearing like a yellow baseball cap and a t-shirt and shorts. And his neighbor says, it has a chipped blade, you know. Dagwood, pointing down, looking a little irritated, says, it wasn't chipped when I loaned it to you. The neighbor, kind of crossing his arms defensively, says, you probably never noticed it. Oh, and the wheel wobbles a little too. And they're both looking down, hands in their pockets, down at that red lawnmower. Dagwood's kind of, now he's got his hands on his knees, kind of crouched down, looking a little closer at it. He says, the front ones, and it looks like there's a small leak in the fuel line. Dagwood's now motioning towards the lawnmower. Just kind of, he's visibly irritated. He says, I can't believe this. His neighbor, with his arms still crossed defensively, says, I am as surprised as you are, buddy. And now the neighbor dude is kind of turned and he's walking away, and Dagwood's looking kind of at us, a little perplexed and kind of defeated. But the neighbor dude says as he walks away, I just hope you can get it up and running by next weekend. There's Blondie. And that neighbor dude, he's what an asshole. Pardon that, but really, I mean, seriously, he borrowed the lawnmower and returned it. He returned it all messed up. I mean, that's not cool. It's not cool at all, man. If I were Dagwood, I would never let him loan out the lawnmower again. You know, I've had my lawnmower for probably, I think, around 8 years, and it was when I purchased that. It wasn't anything fancy, but the thing has lasted me that long, and it still runs like a top. But I do know people that are really hard on things like that. And there's just there's something to be said for kind of caring for what you have and making sure to keep it in good shape, because it can, things like that can last a long time. But if you're kind of negligent and you treat it poorly, it'll treat you poorly. It won't work for you. I wish more people had that kind of sense, that kind of sensibility, that things you buy, it doesn't have to be viewed as something that's replaceable. I think that's kind of, things have changed in that way where, if something breaks, it's like, no, just throw it out and buy a new one. Things weren't that way forever. If you bought something, then you hope to keep it last, hopefully it lasts for many, many years. That's kind of things have changed in that way. Things are disposable. We live in a disposable life, a disposable society, I guess. If things aren't working, just throw it out and buy a new one. That's just my thought on that. Anyway, there's Blondie and her buddy Dagwood on a Sunday morning, and I guess the reason I wanted to bring that one up is because I mowed my yard today. And yeah, the lawnmower fired up like it always does, right on cue, no problems at all. I won't be lending out my lawnmower to anybody anytime soon, because it may not come back in one piece. Anyway, I think that wraps up the Funny Papers for this week. Thanks for joining me. If you're, I don't know where you're listening to this, but if you're listening to it on YouTube, thanks for coming on board that way. It's new. It's just been introduced. So if you're on that platform, then thanks for coming on thanks for coming and listening to the new way things work. And if you're listening to it on another platform, keep doing what you do. That's fine too. But if you're interested in checking out the YouTube page, check it out, because that it's just a little something different. That's kind of how the show's growing. We're moving out into onto different platforms and hoping to expand the audience and the listenership. And as always, if you know anybody that might be interested in this kind of show, pass along the word. Tell friends and family. It would mean a lot to me, and the show would grow in that respect in doing that kind of thing. So again, thanks for joining me today. And until next time, this is your old buddy Dustin, and I'll see you in the Funny Papers, my friends.